Hello everybody, this is the Plastic Commando coming to you on a cold, wintry mix day deep behind enemy lines. And on this day, what better day to film a video about my most recent and surprising find, and that's a copy of the campaign series edition of Axis and Allies Battle of the Bulge. Now this is a different video. Obviously, my channel has thus far focused more on Axis and Allies World War I 1914, but I plan for this channel to be virtually anything related to Axis and Allies, at least of the game editions that I enjoy playing, and customizations, obviously. But we're not going to stray too far off topic because we're still talking about Axis and Allies. And this edition, as some of you may know, is it's a really hard game to find, and I almost really lucked out in actually getting my hands on it. So I wanted to kind of bring this to you today. It's maybe somewhat of a open box video of a game that is just very hard to find, but it's not a new open box by any means. When I do a lot of buying and trading on eBay, and one day I happened to come across and thought I would do some search to see if I could get my hands on a copy of Axis and Allies Battle of the Bulge, and honestly, for months and months, you just start seeing these really insane prices that people are selling this game for. I mean, I'm talking nutso prices, and so I asked myself, I really questioned whether to purchase this game, and again, I just happened to be on eBay one day and found a copy that met pretty much what I was looking for in terms of price and game quality, I guess. I was actually looking for a used edition. I was certainly not going to pay a brand new edition price that the black market is demanding these days for this one. But I really questioned whether to purchase the game even at a used price, simply because it's not your typical Axis and Allies gameplay. I'll say it's the mechanics of this game is just so much different. And in all honesty, it's been a long time since I ever played this game. This game came out in 2006, I believe, and so I am extremely rusty. I never owned it, and but I did have a chance to play one time, and it's just a different ball of wax in terms of game mechanics. So it may not be for everybody, but it is something that is appealing with the topic. Certainly, the Battle of the Bulge, a very famous battle in World War II, and again, it was something that I thought I wanted to get back into, but the affordability was a big issue. But I did find, when I monitored eBay for some time, and was again just amazed at the crazy demands for a new unopened game. It's really something else, when you consider that this game new back in the day was about $50, and that's probably on the high end. I do remember it sitting in the shelves. At the time, I never was interested in any of the campaign series, whether it be the D-Day version or even Guadalcanal. And I think the Guadalcanal is probably even harder to find right now, but I never was really interested in those campaign series, but I did find one. I did find a used game on eBay, and I wanted to find out primarily that it was free of any significant damage, which the seller indicated that it certainly was free of any major or significant damage, and I feel like I got it at a good price. And so most importantly, the one thing that I did want to find out is whether it was a complete game, which it was. but most importantly, whether the map was in great condition, and I think it certainly is. So I think I think this used edition for $79.99 is certainly obviously more, but it's not significantly more than what it originally cost. 14 years ago now. So, but in any event, I got my hands on it, and but I did question though. Am I nuts to even pay this for a campaign series edition of Axis and Allies? Then I thought, well, the famous General Anthony McAuliffe, the famed commander of the 101st Airborne, when he was surrounded by the Germans at Bastogne, what would he say? And then I thought, well, you found what you've been looking for. It's not your typical Axis and Allies game mechanics, but it is a good game. So I thought to myself, nuts. You're nuts if you don't get it. So I got it. And indicated all the pieces are accounted for. The primary thing, there's no significant damage other than the maybe the edge of the game manual, which we'll certainly look at. And really, I guess in terms of price and affordability and what you think would be fair, what you might think would be nuts, really just boils down to whether this version of Axis and Allies is something that appeals to you or not. If not, then yeah, I would say it's nuts to, pay more money than the game ever cost to begin with. So, but in any event, well, let's open up the game here, and we'll take a look and see what we've got. Of course, you can see the box itself is in pretty good shape. I'm not too concerned about the outer boxes in some of the used games, but this one is in really good shape, looks like. Of course, we can flip it over on the back side here. There's nothing that's really, no major damage on the box itself. So, in terms of collectability, I think this one's still a pretty good version, even though it's used. But again, I guess to each his own on the price. I mean, I got this primarily because it's something I wanted to dive back into. And one of the things that I always liked about this game itself is, I'll try to zoom in here on the box lid a little bit, is that this game, unlike any other Axis and Allies edition, you might can see those little white silhouettes. This game actually comes with supply trucks, and that's just something that we never had seen in an Axis and Allies edition, but they're extremely important in this game. Supplies in this game is really your primary objective to hold on to use, and also to try to, if possible, to try to get from the enemy. Because without supplies, as you know throughout history with the German advance, obviously that caused the Bulge in the war, in the campaign, they eventually ran out of supplies. Ran out of fuel, and their last big gamble failed. So well, let's dive into this box real quick. And the seller did a good job of categorizing all the pieces. All the pieces, and I verified when I purchased. All the pieces are here. Of course, here we've got a bag full of the U.S., the Americans, and I've got a few pieces for the UK. They're actually part of the game. I think most people think of the United States and Germany at Bastogne in the Battle of the Bulge, but certainly the Allies were present. And then of course here we've got the Germans in black. Got the Panther tanks inside, and we'll pull these open and get into the trucks. We've got a big bag of chips. These are the chips that came in the game. We've got the 12-sided dice. And this is another unique factor about this game is for an Axis and Allies edition, you actually utilize 12-sided dice as opposed to the typical 6-sided that we see in other editions of Axis and Allies. And then lastly, we've got these, you can see these little geometric lines. These are the game pieces. These are the frontline markers that'll be used in the game. It measures the progress of the Axis advance, and also it gives you the actual bulge in the front lines. And then you might be able to see here. These are the supply tokens, and of course the flip side is the directional marking. But again, these are the very important part of this game. This game relies heavily on supply and logistics. So it's again, it's a different ball of wax, but it's a game. It's a thinking man's game for sure. And of course, here we've got the game manual, and as I mentioned earlier, really the only damage that I saw in this game is maybe somebody had jammed it into the box, whoever owned this game originally, or maybe they even caught their dog trying to nibble at it. But that's really the only damage that's in the game, is just the edge of this manual. So it's nothing very significant. And then we'll pull this tray out. And as we go through here, we've got these are the turn order cards for not only the U.S. but Germany, and these are really neat. I will probably end up getting these laminated just to protect them, because they're cardstock, but they're a little thin. So for gameplay, it'd be easier maybe to get these laminated and just have them wiped clean, and keep them free of any smudges or fingerprints. Of course, we've got different rounds of in the turn order, the rounds of gameplay. We've got the air combat, the ground combat, movement, reinforcement, and then basically just upkeep, clean up the board, and again, basically get things ready for the next player's turn. So we'll put these over here to the side, and then what we've got also are the reinforcement cards. Here you can see the Axis reinforcement cards, and it actually shows you the types of reinforcements that you've got. You can expect on various turns. We've got a color code system of the turns, and so it'll actually show you the precise reinforcements that you'll be getting in the game. Then here we've got the Allies basically have 3 zones of reinforcements. Of course, we've got the western side of the board, which we'll get the board out just in a second, and then we've got the northern reinforcement card, finally the southern reinforcement card, and the Axis, the Germans, they are only allowed to bring in reinforcements from the east side, obviously pushing towards the direction of Belgium, France, as was the case in the battle itself. And one thing was pretty neat about this. Whoever owned it obviously didn't play it much, because there's a lot of pieces in here that's never even been punched out. Of course, you can see here we've got a lot of the supply tokens that never were punched. And actually, I think part of this is a fairly thick cardstock strips that you can actually make into a parts tray for your game pieces. That's never been put together, so not certain I really use that. Like most of us, I like using the the plastic containers. It just really keeps all your pieces together. Puts a lid on them and keeps them a little bit more secure. And so so a lot of the pieces in here, and then these are basically the strips that you'll be using in the game itself for they're combat strips is what I'm trying to say, primarily for your infantry, your armor, artillery, your trucks, supplies, and your aircraft. And I'm not going to get too much in the playability of the game in this video. This is just more or less an exciting find, unboxing, if you will. So I'm going to get into this game at some point, and One thing about I have noticed though, there's not many videos on Axis and Allies Battle of the Bulge on YouTube. So I do want to try to get into this, and likely we'll post a game at some point in the future. So we'll put this to the side, and then lastly we'll get out the game board, the game map. Put this box over here, and let's see if I can get this out. And again, the primary focus that I was looking at in my communication with the seller on eBay was to make sure that the game map itself did not have any smudges, you know, any fingerprints, pizza sauce. I say that because my original map of Axis and Allies Classic from 1984 still has its own island, actually on the Atlantic Ocean side, where there's a greasy pizza stain. So technically, there was an island that was added to the game map. So I wanted to make sure that was not the case. You know, obviously spending this kind of money on a used version of a game. So I'll see if I can adjust this to where we can kind of get this whole thing into the viewpoint of the camera. It's not an extremely big map in terms of size. I mean, it looks to be, I'm sure it says it on the game box there, but it's probably about 2 feet, maybe 2 feet by 3, I would think. So, but I'll try to zoom in here. This is a different type of map, obviously, than you know most of us are used to and accustomed to in playing Axis and Allies. It does have the you know, the various city names of the campaign, the Bastogne area, the Ardennes. But one of the things about this particular game that you'll find different is when you're looking at the map, you immediately start seeing the hexes. I mean, this is a hex-based game system. Again, something that we don't normally see in Axis and Allies. Again, it's just a much different gameplay in terms of game mechanics. So you know, if you're looking to play this game, looking to buy it, don't expect to all of a sudden have an Axis and Allies Classic or you know, global game system that you're just going to easily jump into. But I would say though, it's not that foreign. I mean, you're familiar with an Axis and Allies game, and you know the types of units involved, those type of things. So and the game manual itself is not very thick. So I mean, it you know, you could read this in a matter of half hour probably and virtually get the gist of it. Obviously, you know, just like most of us, you get in and playing the game, you start figuring out what works, what doesn't. But some of the aspects that you'll notice on the map, we've got certainly the network of roads. There's you know, just numerous roads that go across the map, and that's for certainly the movement of game pieces, movement of supplies, supply tokens, movement of your trucks. You know, this map, obviously, there's not a lot of color. It's a gray-white map. Of course, we got the cities, various cities and towns. We've got technically, I think, yeah, these are the waterways. A little hard to see, again, because a lot of it's grayscale. So we've got waterways that you know, are to my knowledge, going from memory, they're all impassable. The waterways are, I believe, with the exception of maybe the infantry. So those are points in the map that certainly, if you're advancing as the Germans, you'll have to take into consideration. But over here, I'll try to shift the camera over just a tad. See if I can zoom in. You can probably see here, as you follow my finger, this is the front line, and again, that's the purpose of these little geometric shapes. There's a whole bunch of these markers in here that you know, again, they're for the purpose of frontline marking. So for example, when Germany starts to advance, they start pushing, making a bulge in the front line. Then you can certainly start drawing the changes with the game pieces, following the hex pattern, and then it's really cool. I think you can start seeing the shape of how the front line is going to change, or vice versa. If the Allies basically start whipping up on Germany, then the front line is going to go back that way, and Germany's going to get pushed off the map. So really, it can go one way or another, east or west. The roads, as I indicated, they're primarily for supply line network for your trucks. Just a few other things here real quick. Let me zoom back out. Maybe kind of hard to see here. You've got, if you notice here on the right hand side, there's a German roundel marker at the top. What we've got here on the side, there's a strip that's numbered from 1 to 24. What that is, that's basically a tracker for Germany, the Axis in this game. Basically it's kind of like a victory point marker to where if Germany can get down to 24, then they automatically win the game. And so really the ideal for the Axis is essentially prevent Germany from getting 24 victory points, if you will, to basically keep them from pushing the Allies too far, and then basically winning the conflict, and in this case winning the game. So the idea for the Allies really is to prevent Germany from getting the 24 points needed to win the game itself. And this, as you look over to the left side, this is you can see the turn chart. It's an 8-round game. So again, it's been a long time since I'd played this game, but to my knowledge, it's not, unlike a lot of the Axis and Allies games, it's not an extremely long game. But again, I think that's to the player's expertise. The box may say it takes 2 hours, but as most of us that play Axis and Allies, that too can turn into 4 hours easy. So that's just kind of an overview of the map, and then a few other things just real quick. You can see the little silhouettes. Here we've got the supply silhouettes. You've got the infantry tanks. This is really more or less a map in and of itself, to where basically it shows you the exact placement of pieces when you're setting the game up. So for example, we've got here we've got this hex, the town of Dassberg. Basically it shows you put an infantry, artillery piece, 2 tanks. So that's kind of cool about the map itself. And so that's that's really the map in a nutshell. Let's zoom back out here. I just think one of the aspects I like about the map itself, since it is such a different map, is it's almost like a map that you would see maybe Command having, obviously, pinpointing where the roads are, where the detours are once the enemy's advancing. So it's really designed to be almost like a map that you would perhaps see someone in the military pull out and kind of follow the lines of the map and the regions, the directions. So it's this is a really scaled down version, obviously. So that's why we get more of the micro aspects of the roads and the rivers that we normally maybe don't get necessarily in an actual Axis and Allies game map. So because it's a much more broader, those games are much more broader in scale, versus this is more of a microcosm, if you would, of an actual campaign. So I do like the aspects of the map, and there's not a major crease here in the middle. I don't ever envision myself wanting to have a custom map made of this. Again, the board is in great shape, and probably for the times it'll be played, I mean, I think this will suffice anyway. It's a very compact board, so you know, I don't see the need of advancing the size of this board in any fashion. So, so I guess just real quick, excuse me. One of the things I do like about the game itself are the addition of the trucks, and just want to kind of pull these out real quick. And obviously one of the things, if you do try to find a copy of this game, just because they are so extremely hard to find as replacement parts, you want to make sure that if you're buying a used copy, make sure it's got all of the trucks. Here's the Americans, and obviously this is the German. This is the Opel Blitz. This is a GMC truck for the U.S. And I say that because as long as I've been on historical board gaming, you know, buying obviously a lot of different parts for customization, game aids, and so forth, I'd looked a few times at these trucks to try to get a few. Never could find them. Always been out of stock. I mean, maybe on a rare occasion they may have popped in over the years, but just never been able to find these trucks. So I tell you, these are really a rare commodity. And the good thing about, again, the game I got, they're all accounted for. So it's pretty neat. But again, these are the means of moving your supply tokens and also moving your infantry. My understanding, I believe, again, going from memory, you can load up your trucks with not only supplies, but you can also load them with infantry, artillery, and then I think, unlike again other games, I mean, you can actually put up to 6 units in a truck. Again, this is sort of a micro version of a campaign, not a huge map where, you know, we've got the standard transport rule, maybe what 2 game pieces for a transport on sea. Again, this is scaled down, so it's more micro. So obviously you can put up to 6 units in these trucks, and then of course move them, you know, down the road supply, and, you know, kind of get to the destination you're needed. But well, that's one cool aspect about this game. But definitely like those trucks a lot. So the one thing about this particular game, you know, again, unlike maybe other games that I've got that I'm doing a lot of customization. As you know, I do a lot of customization in my games, and just and obviously last year I've just been customizing the heck out of Axis and Allies 1914. Still doing it, as a matter of fact. But you know, I love these trucks a lot. You know, the game pieces, you know, they're just the basic colors. Obviously, got tons of these already that even if a few pieces are missing, I've got so many replacements in my cases and boxes that it wouldn't be a big issue. But again, the trucks, that's a different matter. It's just something that's very hard to find. You know, my brain kicks in, though, once I get a new Axis and Allies game, and it immediately starts leaning towards game customization. And you know, it's sometimes I look at it as a curse, but at other times, you know, possibly it's a blessing, because I'm literally thinking outside the box. In this case, the game box, if you will. But definitely, if you're into customizations and you know, if you've seen other videos of mine, you can kind of get a feel that I enjoy doing that. You know, rather than look at it like perhaps a curse, meaning that you're always busy, you're doing something, you never get things right, or, you know, I look at it more towards the blessing side. But no matter what, it's just a labor of love for me. And the one thing that I will probably do customizations. Not certain if I'll do some of the painting, but who am I kidding? In the end, I probably will. The Sherman Tanks that come with this are kind of the standard that come in other versions of the games. And I'll be honest with you, I've absolutely despised these tanks. I've never liked them. I mean, they serve the purpose. They they're almost familiar to a Sherman, but I just do not like them at all. And so in preparation for waiting for the game to arrive in the mail, if you will, I, of course, also got my replacement parts from Historical Board Gaming. And you can see here I've got, I'd bought a few of these Shermans in the past. We'll get the ugly one out of the way. And I like these. These are really nice sculpts. I'd bought a few of these, which I've customized only a couple of them thus far. But to me, they got more of the look of the Sherman. And so what I intend to do, obviously, I've got 20 Shermans right here, so I'm going to be definitely replacing the Shermans in this game, and that'll, to me, that'll look a lot better, a lot more pleasing to the eye. And then the other thing I got, just because the rivers in the game that are really hard to follow. Again, this being a white grayscale map, I thought that maybe it would be beneficial in a lot of ways to get one of Doug's acrylic markers at Historical Board Gaming, that in this case a river, and then just be able to kind of put those, that way you're sort of designating where the rivers are and such, that maybe help in learning to play the game. Maybe having someone maybe who's never played this game kind of get an understanding of the map itself and figure out that, okay, well, that's a river, it's impassable, that type thing. So I will, I'm not going to kid myself, I'm not going to kid any of you guys. I will be doing some customization on this game, most definitely. And even with the Germans, we've got, you can probably see in the bag here, we've got the standard German infantry. That's, the iconic Axis and Allies game piece. But given that this is more of a winter campaign, in obviously surrounding Bastogne, I know Historical Board Game has got some custom German infantry in greatcoats in the winter overcoats, which I've got probably got 20 or 30 of those already, and have had those for some time. I'm thinking about actually transferring those to the game and then having more of a a winter look to the infantry, and may even do the same for the American infantry. I haven't decided yet. I know there's some other companies that make cold weather uniform U.S. infantry 1/72 scale, and so I will eventually probably just customize this game to the fullest extent. So, but having said all that, though, I don't want this video to go on too far. I just wanted to kind of share my find and my love of Axis and Allies, and also my ability basically to find a game that is just extremely hard to find. And it's amazing, how the prices get jacked up on some of these and they go out of print. But in any event, we are definitely going to get into this game, and I'm glad I found it. So, but I'm curious whether or not any of you folks out there, if you like playing some of the campaign series games. I know Pillbox plays some of the D-Day campaign. I don't know whether he has Battle of the Bulge. If so, I haven't seen it, but I'm kind of curious if it's it's a campaign series game that you guys like to play or have played, or maybe it's a game that you just absolutely hate. I'd like to hear your feedback one way or another, comments, likes, dislikes, anything that maybe you have about this game that you'd like to share. I'd appreciate it. So, well, guys, I appreciate it as always. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I am now going to pick up my parts and put them back into the box for the time being. But hope you guys have a blessed day. This is the Plastic Commando. Over and out.